Hello, welcome to this video on CMI Assignment 502. This is the second part of the series, and it will be focusing on assessment criteria 1.2. So we're working through task 1 here, write a report entitled Approaches to Developing, Managing and Leading Teams. And the second assessment criteria that we need to work through is discuss practical approaches for effective team management and leadership. Practical approaches. So the first assessment criteria was on theory. We had to evaluate two different theories. Now what we need to do is talk through two practical approaches. I say two just because there's an S on the end of approaches, so I guess that means that we need to talk about two. The word discuss, the action word there. Give a detailed account, including a range of views or opinions, which include contrasting perspectives. So I'll give a view on what that might look like, and I'll then share an example just to illustrate how you might approach this. So an example from my own experience, I suppose. So what we need to do here then is we're answering this question, is choosing two examples. What have you used or observed others do in practice? So are there any particular methods, approaches, things that you've either used yourself or that other people have done in order to lead and manage a team? It could be around how work is delegated, how things have been incentivized. It could be things like team building approaches that you've used or been part of. All of it's good. The thing is the word discuss. What we need to do, and my suggestion for that would be to look at the approach from both the leader and follower perspective. So again, it says, that with discuss, it means that we need to look at it from more than one perspective. I think a good thing to do here would be, to look at, well, what might a leader think about it and what might a follower think about it. And, you could have been either. So it could be your initiative or it could be something that you were a follower on as well, so it's really just two different perspectives. And I think the leader and the follower perspective would be a good way of going about that. Here's a practical example. So this is something that I encountered in my former life. This is a very big thing in the kind of military world, and it's called mission command. And it's a way of working. It's not really theoretical. I mean, there is a bit of theory that underpins it, I suppose, but the key thing is it's a very practical way of thinking about leadership management. And essentially, the way that it works is you get told what you need to accomplish. That's called the commander's intent. This is what you need to do, but how you get there is left up to you. So you're told what you need to do, but how is yours. So that's where you then come up with your plan, and then you give your orders, and and hopefully it will all happen. So it's a very good methodology when things are quite fluid. And if the big boss was to come up with a plan, but it's likely that things are going to change quite quickly, that plan probably won't be relevant, because if you're in a dynamic environment, that's often the case. So it just means that you're kind of delegating that fluidity and flexibility down through your chain of command. That was all the terminology that's used in the military, chain of command. So from a follower's perspective, it is very empowering, and it supports creativity and flexibility. So you get to come up with your own plan, you own it, which is, we like a bit of autonomy, don't we? If you want to disengage people, then you take away their autonomy. So very good, keeps people engaged. And it's also the case that you might, as you're executing or delivering the plan, you might see opportunities that will help you to do it better, improve it, or you might see new threats or challenges which you might not have been aware of when you started. But because you own the plan, you're able to then adapt it and change it as you go, as you need to. So it's really good if you're in a kind of in a volatile sort of scenario or situation where things are changing fast. It means that you're empowered to adapt the plan as you go because you own the plan. You might not be able to adapt the goal or the objective. That may not change, but how you get there, you can control, and so that's great from an empowerment perspective. From a leader's perspective, it requires a significant amount of trust and confidence in the team. So to kind of give your intent, so this is what you need to accomplish, and then stand back and let people get on with it, it requires a high degree of trust. And what some people are like, they really love to micromanage. And so if you're a bit control freakish, you might find letting people run with it and work out their own plans and solutions can be a bit of a leap for people to go on. So, and even in practice, again, in the military context, this was how people were supposed to work in practice. A lot of bosses found it very difficult to actually leave their people to kind of make decisions and get on with it in practice. So it needs a lot of trust. So it works really well when people have been effectively trained and they've had that kind of time to really learn their role, and that you know that the team just works together really well, and it can handle things. So when people have had time to train and develop, it's really, really good. And it also, when there's and related to that, when trust is high, so you know that people will step up to the challenge, absolutely great. But if these factors aren't in place, it can be quite risky. If do people really know what they're doing? Are they competent and confident in their roles? Have they had sufficient time and support to get to that stage? If that's not the case, then it's quite risky. So again, with new teams or inexperienced teams, mission command might have a few limitations actually. So. The other thing is that some individuals may need more support than others. Would it work for everyone? So some people might become, in terms of if they're told to sort of come up with their own plans and they're empowered. Some people will really love that. Other people might be quite intimidated by that. So we all need slightly different levels of support and encouragement, and that can be quite complex. And again, it could be down to people's experience. Could also be down to their relationship with work. How much responsibility do they really want? Not everybody's really up for it, and all of those sorts of factors. So you've got to sort of, I suppose, appraise the culture of the team and think about where individuals are, in terms of their willingness to lean into challenge and to kind of really take on that responsibility. Not everybody's going to be up for this way of working, perhaps. So there we go. That's how I would pull it apart and have a discussion about it, really, from a leaders and a followers perspective. There are some, pros and cons to the approach. Really, works really well under the right conditions. So over to you then. So it's two practical approaches that you've observed or seen or been part of. Talk about it from the leader and follower perspective, and then draw some sort of conclusion. So there we go. Mission command. My conclusion was, it works well provided the right conditions are in place. Come to a conclusion on your different approaches, and then we are complete. So again, hopefully that's broken it down and given you again an example and a method to follow. And yep, my next video will be on assessment criteria 1.3. Thank you very much.